Listen up, all you doers, builders, and action takers. It's go time. Welcome to the Alpha Edge CEO Lounge, the home base for anyone serious about starting a business, scaling a business, and dominating the world of entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Loren Dougherty, and this show is built for people who refuse to sit on the sidelines. Every week, we dive deep with real founders, CEOs, and power players to reveal the strategies, mindset, and behind-the-scenes truth of what it actually takes to build something from the ground up. No fluff, no shortcuts, no theory, no bullshit, just real conversations with people who have done the work. If you're dreaming about launching your first business, if you're in the trenches building your next empire, if you're obsessed with entrepreneurship, growth, and leveling your life like I am, then you're exactly where you belong. This is Alpha Edge. This is where real leaders are created. Let's get into it. All right, welcome to the Alpha Edge CEO Lounge. Today's episode is a little different. I'm interviewing myself. Why? Because before I bring guests on, before we get into other people's stories, you need to know exactly who I am, what I built, and why this podcast exists. This is for entrepreneurs. This is for future entrepreneurs, and this is for the people who keep saying they don't want to start a business but haven't moved yet. Let's get into it, okay? The real beginning. Loren, let's start here. What's your original story? We did all this. How did all this start? Well, how it all started, I don't really know, to be honest with you. I grew up always wanting to be a police officer, and I went to the extent of going to college after to Napa Valley College, and went through all the courses and ended up in the police academy. Graduated the police academy in 1998, and I got out of the academy, put myself through the academy. I've never not knew about hard work. I mean, I've been working since I was 10 years old. I had a paper route when I was 10, all the way up to, Baskin Robbins, right? So I always kind of had that work ethic. I wasn't always great in school, kind of had trouble in school. Matter of fact, my mom just gave me a box of pictures and old report cards, and I got to look through them. Not the greatest, but I always had that kind of work ethic. So out of the police academy, I was having a hard time trying to get a job. I was interviewing a lot of places. There was a lot of competition back then, and you really had to be the most stellar candidate to get a job as a police officer. Something I really always wanted to do. I answered an ad. I needed a job. Dad said, you got to get a job. You're going to live at home. So I answered an ad in the newspaper for a cable installer. So I was like, I could probably do that. So I ended up calling the ad. It was my guy I knew from high school who actually started the business, and it was a cable installation business. So I was running out of Oakland, out of my own truck. You created this reel in the back of the truck, and you put your spool of cable on there, and away you went with your Thomas guide around Oakland. So it was a piecework type job. So I was running cable they're basically a Comcast contractor for Comcast. So we would go out and we would install, new cable drops from a pole to a house, new, turn on service, put a cable box in, things of that nature. I was a big hustler and got paid piecework. So the more I did, the more I made. And I figured that out pretty quickly and kind of rise to the top of that. Was making pretty good money, and I really loved what I did. I really kind of enjoyed it. I was good at it. I fast. I made good money. As time went on and I was trying to get a job as a police officer, I kind of figured out that line of work just wasn't going to happen for me. And worked for a company called iWire for a long time. And then, long story short, I ended up going to work for another cable contractor, and we actually did the very first Astound cable installation cost across the county. Me and an ex-business partner of mine, which I'll get into later. We ended up going to a company called North Sky Communications out of Martinez. And same thing, you got a company truck though, and you got benefits, everything else, but it was piecework. Figured out where the money was, got those routes, and was making great money back when I was like 21, 22 years old, probably 10 grand a month. And, got kind of the taste of business and how that works. A buddy of mine, the top two guys, myself and another guy, decided, hey, these guys like us so much in-house that we are going to go get a contract with them. I'm going to go get my contractor's license. And I did. And away we went. I got a C7 contractor's license and decided we're going to quit and we're going to start our own company and we're going to go get a contract with Sound Cable. Well, we did all that and they said, I don't think so. We were two kids trying to get a cable contract in a very large corporate environment. So needless to say, we kind of floundered around for a long time. We were doing cable satellite installations for DirecTV and those guys. And we had a few here and there, and we kind of floundered around a little bit. My partner just couldn't kind of hang with financially. He had a couple kids and decided he was going to bow out. I ended up, the guy I worked for, iWire, called me one day and said, hey, he had sold his portion of the business, moved up to Idaho and said, hey, I'm going to be moving back to the Bay Area. I can be your competitor or your partner. And I really didn't have anything going on. I felt like he had the experience. I said, fine, let's be partners. That ended up being horrible down the road. But in the meantime, we became partners. And we were still kind of floundering around as to what we were going to do. One day I had an idea. I said, I bet ADT contracts for alarm systems. And I had never touched an alarm system, never even knew what brands were out there, nothing. It's kind of fake it till you make it. You're desperate enough, you'll do just about anything to make some money. Well, not anything. So I called ADT and got a hold of this guy, Brian, who was out of the Hayward office. And I'm still good friends with Brian. Great guy. He ended up starting his own alarm company down the road, and we talk all the time and refer each other business. But that's another story. So from there, I said, yeah, we do alarms. He said, well, we need people. I said, okay, well, we'll come contract for you. He said, well, what alarms do you know? I said, the ones you guys know. Knowing that I had no idea about alarms whatsoever. I then, he said, well, that's fine. He goes, I'll bring my top guy in and we'll teach you guys how to do, give you a refresher. I said, well, yeah, I just need a refresher. I know, he goes, do you know a Demco? I'm like, oh yeah, we do those. I don't even know what it was. So my partner and I went in and we got 2 days worth of training from their top guy. And, he taught us how to install it, what to do, how to wire it, how to program it, and sent us on our way. Needless to say, my first couple of installs were the most excruciating, stressful thing I've ever done in my entire life in front of a client of which I had no idea what I was doing. But I figured it out, moved forward, and away we went. Ended up doing a bunch of contracting for them. And in the meantime, my business partner had met a guy who was in the structured wiring business on a plane of all places. This guy, Marty Cornelison. And Marty was a fire captain or chief or something for Ripon Fire Department. He didn't want to give his day job, but he wanted to be involved in the business still. It was kind of in the pioneering of another company of that world. And told us that he would love to work with us and that he could get us into Meritage Homes. So we said, okay, and put together a presentation. He put together a meeting with Meritage Homes. We walked in with a presentation in front of a board member of 10 people for, corporate America. we didn't know what we were doing, but we've made it sound like we knew what we were talking about. Um, from there, Meritage Homes ended up giving us every track that they had. We started with one, and we proved ourselves as, a great company, good customer service, got the product when they needed it. Um, we ended up growing that company to about 30 to 40 employees, doing about 1,500 production homes a year. Um, we had two showrooms. We had one in Vacaville, one downtown Ripon, and it was quite the show. We grew really quickly, really fast and quick, and there was a lot of lessons that were learned in that. I can't say that I would ever do that again. However, I learned a lot. Fast forward a little bit, that business partner, I don't personally do really well with business partners. I've kind of figured out, even though I have a couple still. But that I ended up selling the company to that business partner, of which he kind of screwed me down the road. That's a whole different story. Learned a lot of lessons on that one as well. In the meantime, I had, even when I sold the company, I started doing big custom homes myself. I did it all by myself. Most of the major big custom homes in the Solano County, Contra Costa County area, I've either been a part of or done myself. And then fast forward 08, 09 hit, and we were doing all custom homes. Well, guess what happened when the bubble burst with the housing market? The custom homes went, and that's all I was doing. So, luckily I had gotten my alarm license, and we had a handful of monitored contracts that kind of kept us afloat. I ended up going and getting another job with a big contractor. I was bored out of my mind. I absolutely hated it. I couldn't stand working for somebody. They didn't have much for me to do. It was very monotonous. They actually ended up firing me, but it's the best thing they could have done, because it put me in a position to where I had to move forward. I had to do something. I had to recreate myself, because in 08, 09, full transparency, I filed bankruptcy. I lost everything. I had everything: boats, trucks, house, you name it, all gone. Poof. So it was pretty disheartening for me. However, like I said, I was put in a position where I had to do something. I had a daughter that I was raising by myself since she was 5 years old. And, had a life I had to build. So we ended up starting Alpha Alarm, transferring the assets from there to, the monitor contracts to Alpha Alarm. We had enough to just keep going, and I put my head to the ground and ground. Knocked on every door, was in every business meeting, every Chamber of Commerce meeting. I just shook hands and booked appointments and made myself known. It's kind of something you do in business. You have to grind. It is not easy. It's a long process. We'll get into some of those things in more detail later on down the road, but I just kind of want to tell you my story. Fast forward, we've been Alpha Alarm, an alarm company for the last, since 09. I've been in business for almost 26 years, but since 2010, we started Alpha Alarm. And I very quickly figured out that I wanted to be a security company. I have a law enforcement background. So we kind of cut out the bullshit, figured out what works for us, what we make money at, what we're good at. And that is alarm systems, card access, fire alarm came down the road, and camera work. We do lots of camera work. We now partner with most of the police departments around here. We're now protecting the police departments, which is kind of a cool thing for us and for me. I kind of got to come a little bit full circle with that. All my buddies who I went to the police academy with are now chiefs and, running these departments, and they know me and trust me, so we do the work for them. We do a lot of the work in Napa. Most of the wineries up in Napa are clients of ours. Um, During the last 10 years, I've purchased multiple alarm companies. Growth by acquisition is one of those things that you kind of have to do, especially in this business if you want to grow and be successful. I mean, you could door knock all day long, but if you can find smaller alarm companies, of which we did, our first company was BCS, and we purchased that about 10, 12 years ago. It basically doubled our company overnight. And we ended up paying that off, and it's been awesome. So we monitor a bunch of accounts now because of the fact that we've purchased accounts. So I kind of got good at buying companies. I've sold some accounts, so I know how to sell companies as well. And I really enjoy it. I really enjoy the process of it. I enjoy buying a company and taking it and kind of making it better, bringing it into the fold here. And then with that, I like, there's a gal that I listen to a lot, and I will probably talk about her a lot, and it's Cody Sanchez. She talks a lot about buying boring businesses, and I'll probably talk a lot about this on the podcast. There are lots of businesses out there that you can buy. There's lots of ways to buy a business that is pretty easy to do, and we can help with that. One of my other companies is How To Consulting. It's a company where we and I help you buy, sell, look for businesses that you can purchase and help you with that process. From very small to doing the whole entire thing for you. Or coming into your business and helping you fix some things in your business. It's one of our businesses. I had an opportunity and I put myself in this opportunity, but there's a gym in the town that we live in that I purchased with a partner about 3 years ago. And it's been great. We haven't made a whole lot of money yet. However, there's a payoff time. And when that does happen, we will be doing very well with it. So that's one business that we purchased. I recently started a vending machine business. You can kind of see the theme of things that we do. Everything that I like to do is RMR based, right? Recurring monthly revenue. You want that mailbox money. So, in the bad times, you got that money still coming in. We have that on the alarm side. The gym is the same way, and so is the vending machine company, and it's taken off. It's actually pretty fun. It's kind of fun for me now because I don't need that money really. So it's fun to watch it build and grow. And I know it'll make money sometime. It just doesn't, I don't have to stress about that for me, but there are ways to build businesses very quickly. So that's kind of the extent of what we do. What was the exact moment you decided I'm done working for someone else and building my own business? Honestly, it was that time when, I knew I just didn't want to work for anybody else. I kind of wanted to build my own future. And honestly, I saw dollar signs, I knew that I could make a lot of money and kind of what I wanted to do. I didn't want to be stuck making a fixed amount. What was my first hustle? My first hustle, probably telling ADT that I knew what I was doing because I really didn't. Let's see. How did I get my first 10 clients? Well, like I said, I really went out there and hustled. I knocked on every door that I could. I did a lot of business networking. I think business networking, in the beginning for me now, it's kind of a waste of time. You kind of get in these business networking groups, or you get into Chamber of Commerce, and I'm not knocking either one of them. It definitely helped me out in the beginning, but you kind of get the same repetitive people in there that are really trying to start out in business. And once you get to a certain level, it's really kind of counterproductive. But if you're starting a business, go out there, be known, pitch your product like you know it inside and out, and like you've done it forever. What mistakes did I make early that punched me in the mouth, but taught me the most? Man, so much. I mean, I'm constantly learning. They say that most millionaires have failed at least 3 times or gone bankrupt a couple of times, but they don't give up. They get back up and they put the pants back on and they fight again another day to build another business. What process did you build later on that completely changed the trajectory of your companies? I had a business coach that I used for a while, and they talked about a quadrant. It was called the Contractor's Coach, and if you ever want to go look at it, they're out of Walnut Creek. I went there, I committed to, I think, a year of it, and I think you get pieces and parts out of anything that you do. And they really kind of taught me how to change my mindset. And they talk about these quadrants. What quadrant do you want to be in? You want to be in a quadrant where you're working all the time, you're working in the business and not on your business? Or do you want to be working on your business and not in it, right? Which means other people are working for you, doing the things you need to be done so you can work on growing, or taking a business and creating a structure and duplicating that, right, multiple times. And that's kind of, been embedded in the back of my mind and kind of where I'm at today. My goal is to build and buy multiple companies under one umbrella company, like starting this podcast. I've always wanted to do it. I'm in a position where I can, and I just want to help other people. I have people come to me all the time. How do I do this? How do I do that? And I usually give that information away for free. We like to monetize it through how-to consulting and really create a brand there that can help other businesses physically. But, the podcast is really to help other people and get some insight from other business owners. I'm going to get a ton out of it just by interviewing these people. So if I do anything, I get a lot out of it by interviewing people that can take me to the next level as well. I'm always learning. You will always learn, and you'll always want to do better for yourself. Was there ever a moment where it almost fell apart? Yeah, it has fallen apart. But you figure out what you did wrong. You figure out where you don't want to be. For me, when I fell apart, it was, hey, I'll never be in debt again, right? Now I have a lot of things. However, I can afford these things, and I make sure that I can afford the things before I buy the things, right? Where I didn't really do that before. I went out and bought the truck. I bought the boat. I bought, everything on credit and didn't pay cash for it. Couldn't afford it. All went away. So that's kind of the lesson I learned. That almost took me out. How did you push through it? Well, you just do, You either have it or you don't. And if you don't have it, I don't know what to tell you. But if you have the grind, you have that mindset, you don't want to give up, you just push through it and make it happen. What mindset shift made you level up for real? Honestly, it was talking to that the person at the Contractor's Coach. It kind of changed my way of thinking about things. Even when we get a little bit low on money with a company, I don't stress about it because I know that we're going to hustle and we're going to push through it, and it always evens itself out. You make decisions fast. How do you do that without blowing up your business? Well, you kind of have to make decisions. You can't hem and haw on business. You can't, it's like, okay, process in, make the decision. Okay, this is what we're doing. I don't have time to analyze anything. I don't have time to analyze shit. I mean, I do for a minute or two, but for the most part, I'm making decisions pretty quickly on the fly. Some of that has to do with being in business for myself for a long time and knowing what's right, what's wrong, what's going to work, what's not. But you can't really flounder in business. Business moves way too fast, especially nowadays with AI and everything else. What's my philosophy on today on hiring and leading people and building teams? Let me tell you, that is probably the hardest part about business. Hiring the right people, leading people, building teams. I mean, it's hiring employees is a very, very hard thing. They all lie to you on their interview. You really don't know who they are until they really get into the nitty gritty and either screw you or do right by you. I've had hundreds of employees, and it is not easy. I've got some major horror stories. Maybe I'll share in an episode at some point. What to do's and what not to do's of that. The money, smart business, not emotional business. Let's talk money. What financial move made the biggest difference in your growth? At some point you have to be okay with borrowing money, right? You have to be able to be okay with that. A lot of people want to run their business debt free, and that's great. And you can do that. However, if you want to grow at a decent pace, you got to learn how to, get an SBA loan or get a loan from the bank or have some type of line of credit with the bank so that when something comes up and you need to, buy or grow or buy a company, you kind of want to have that in your back pocket. I will talk and have a segment at some point on how to buy a business, what to look for, how to look for it, how to strategize to buy it, how to speak to somebody about it, and how to finance it. Because a lot of it can be owner-backed financing. You just got to know how to finesse that and who you're speaking to about it. How do you think about pricing margins and protecting your profit? Well, you kind of have to know exactly what you're doing. You gotta have your eye on the ball. I've taken my eye off the ball a few times and come back to the ball and realize that you need to keep your eye on the ball because people get lackadaisical about things, and you need to know exactly what's going on, what your profit margins are on. Bringing on systems that will do that for you. Like we brought on a software for our company a few years back, and it kind of brought everything together. Instead of doing stuff on spreadsheets and Excel sheets and all that bullshit, we brought on the software, and it literally changed the game. And we say it all the time. Thank God we did that. It's one of those things that costs us some money up front to do, but has doubled and tripled itself with the ease that it is to put a job together. And that goes for any business. Our gym, it has its own software program that runs that we changed into when we bought it, and it's made it better today. If you had to start today with just $10,000, what business are you building and why? I would start a vending machine company. 10 grand will buy you 2 or 3 machines that you just got to place with product, and you will be a profit center out of the gate. I just did it. I know that. So I would do that. The hard truth, no BS, no filter. Loren, what's something about entrepreneurship nobody warned you about? The long hours, the stress of money at times, really, people think that I'm going to start my own business and I'm going to be a millionaire right out of the gate. Yeah, bullshit. Unless you have some crazy invention that just takes off out of the blue, or some YouTube influencer that, whatever. But that's not the case at all. Nobody warned me that I'd be putting in, 40 hours a week, 40 hours, 100 hours a week in the beginning, busting my ass to get to where I'm at. Nobody really warns you about that stuff. However, it does give you some flexibility. I kind of work my schedule around my life now instead of my life around my work, which is great. What sacrifices did you have to make that people don't see? Lots of sacrifices. I mean, I've missed all kinds of stuff in the past because of work. I mean, you don't get to turn off. I really don't get to turn off now. It's a little more selective now because I have people to kind of do those things for me, but you know, that's really it. Did I ever want to quit? All the time. I've thought about it a million times. Why don't I just sell my accounts and go work for somebody? Why, this is stupid. Like I'll just live off my alarm accounts and shut down the business part of it and not do any more of it. Well, as an entrepreneur, you just have this fire in you that it just doesn't go away. I don't have that in me. I just continue to move forward. But yeah, did I want to ever quit? Absolutely, 100 times. You just don't. You just move forward. In the next 12 to 36 months, where do you see yourself and your companies over the next few years? What's the big vision? Well, I am turning 50 this next week, and I have told myself that my 50s are going to be the best years of my life. I've got a lot of great things going on at home. My girlfriend's an amazing woman and supports me 100%. And my businesses are thriving, and I'm excited to build and buy more businesses and add to the portfolio that we currently have. And hopefully, pass that down the line or sell them or whatever it might be. But I'm in a position now where I'm excited to get up every day. I'm excited to come to work. I'm excited for this podcast. I'm excited for being able to interview people. And that's kind of the big vision for me, getting buying as many businesses as I can so that when I'm about 60, I can think about retirement, I guess. I don't know that I ever will because I just enjoy what I do. What big bet are you making right now? The move that makes people raise their eyebrows. Who knows? I'm always raising people's eyebrows. You haters. There's all kinds of haters out there. That's the other thing about business. The more successful you are, the more haters there are. Where they're just losers, really, who are mostly jealous. And what impact do you want to leave behind through everything you're building? Impact? I have younger kids. We have grandkids now as well. I worry about the generation, their generation. It's completely different and moves at the speed of light nowadays. So I hope that I can build some thought and interest in business for the younger generation, my kids as well. Whether they do that or not is, whatever, but I want them to at least think about it. Hopefully we can get some people on here that will shed some light, and we do have a younger generation that looks at this and listens to us, or any other podcast for that matter. Messages to future entrepreneurs, no excuses. Last thing, Loren, what do you want to say to the person listening right now who wants to start a business but keeps hesitating, keeps doubting, keeps waiting for the right time? Do it. Just do it. There are so many people who come up to me and say, I want to start a business. And you know what I think? I think, yeah, okay. Well, do it then. There are plenty of people out there that can help you, like myself. It's not as hard as you think. And once you do it once, just like anything else, it's like riding a bike. This generation has ChatGPT to help them. ChatGPT helps us a lot. And you have much more of an advantage than we did back then. A ton. There are so many automation platforms that will build these things for you and help you along the way. You just have to put in the work. Period. Put in the work. Just do it. Jump off the bridge or start a side hustle that will, you can kind of do and figure out while you have a full-time job, like the vending machine company. I have people who buy machines from us now. and they're doing it as a side hustle. I try and help them as much as I possibly can. And I do that free of charge because I just want them to buy machines for me, really. But, they start as a side hustle, and hopefully they'll build it into 5 machines, 10 machines, 20 machines, 50 machines. All of a sudden, they're making enough more money than what they would at a full-time job. Then they have some financial freedom, right? It's as simple as that. It really is. And that's episode 1 of Alpha Edge CEO Lounge. Now let's get to work. I appreciate you for coming. I hope we can bring you some great content in the future. Have a great day and go get it. That's it for today's episode of the Alpha Edge CEO Lounge. If you got value out of this conversation, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with other doers, builders, and future CEOs who are ready to level up. And hey, if you're watching this on YouTube or any other platform, make sure you subscribe to the channel and smash that like button and share. It helps us grow, and it helps more entrepreneurs get the tools they need to win. Remember, entrepreneurship rewards action. Leadership requires courage. And the edge you're chasing is built one decision at a time. Make today count, keep pushing your limits, and never stop building the life and business you deserve. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one.